So the history of Europe is wide and large, but is first and foremost, most important to talk about two major empires, the Greek and the Roman Empire. The Greek Empire pretty much started around the third and fourth century BC with Alexander the Great. With the Greeks expanded from Greece, Asia Minor, into Asia, into Northern Africa, across the Middle East, and stretching into India and even parts of Afghanistan, and influencing places all over the world. In the ancient world, Greece established itself as a superpower. Greek was the universal language. The philosophies of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle spread everywhere and established its way into the world. Our alphabet is the Greek alphabet. Alpha and bet are two Greek terms, A and B, alphabet. So we get these specific things from the Greeks. Also, we have the Romans. The Romans play a major role in Western civilization because the Roman Empire stretched from England all the way across Europe and Spain and Italy and all Germany, also into North Africa and into Turkey and into the rest of the Middle East. So the Roman Empire plays a very important role in system of government, in infrastructure and architecture. The Romans invented concrete, where that's where most of our buildings and our infrastructure is made out of. So these two empires are the two major pillars of Western civilization, or the two major pillars of European civilization. As we move on, Europe, proceeding after the fall of the Roman Empire in 476, the Europeans fell into what was called the Middle Ages, also known as the Dark Ages. In this time period, you have a relationship between the Christian church and the state. There's a combination of the two, and the two kind of work together to pretty much operate and control the country or the continent. This leads to the rise of a feudal system with kings and rulers. That's where you'll get the King of France, King of Spain, King of Portugal, King of England, King of Prussia, King of smaller little countries. And then you have, of course, the Pope in Rome and controlling his vassal states. So the Middle Ages also experiences a kind of shift in how Europe operated into a more feudal kingly system. Then afterwards, we get a period called the Renaissance. Renaissance is a French term that means reborn or to be born again or rebirth. What this is that it is emphasizing how in the ancient Greek and Roman days, they had certain arts and literatures and philosophies that were discussed. But during the Middle Ages, that's really the time of the church and the state in dominating control. So there wasn't as much cultural impact that didn't include the church and the state. Middle Ages had plenty of cultural impact and beautiful culture and music, but it was strictly religious. The Renaissance kind of expanded that and influenced and emphasized the secular concept of beauty and other things like that. You get a Renaissance in art. You get a rediscovery of different philosophies of Xenophon, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, an explosion in science with Leonardo da Vinci and things like that. Then afterwards, you get what is called the Enlightenment in Europe. Europe experienced what was called an enlightenment because Europe was slowly going away from strictly religious and going the direction of using those religious ideas and also using the secular ideas and coming up with new concepts of how human beings should live. So the concept of the rights of the individual, human rights, the concept of liberty and fraternity, those things were developed by the Enlightenment thinkers, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Montesquieu, and many others. As the years progressed, Europe also slid into what was called the Industrial Revolution. This is getting into the 16, 17, and 1800s, where Europe saw a shift in from agricultural, feudal, the kings and things like that, into a more city-based, urban-based, into a more factory-based culture and society. So you really see a large shift as the years go by in European history. Also, when it comes to European history, Europe also sees a shift in the 20th century. The 20th century has to be known as one of the bloodiest centuries in the world because of European conflicts. Now, Europe in the 18th century colonized and went all over the world and colonized Americas, Africa, and Asia. So the Europeans kind of brought the rest of the world into their own ethnic conflicts between English and French because of those colonies. So with the 20th century rolling around, the different wars, because of European colonization, those wars that were European conflicts became world conflicts because European colonies were dragged into those dealings with England and France and Russia and Spain. So those world wars devastated not only Europe, but also the rest of the world in resources and things like that. Those world wars lead to different ideologies, militarism, Nazism, communism, all those different isms that play a role in our modern politics. After the two major world wars, you get a Cold War period. Cold War means not directly fighting wars, but wars that are fought indirectly. This Cold War period is pretty much emphasized by the splitting of Europe into two different sections, Eastern and Western. And Western, the leader of Western Europe is technically the United States, and the leader of Eastern Europe is the Soviet Union. And from 1945 to about 1989, that is that constant battle between those two major nations, and Europe is pretty much caught in the middle. As the years go by, Europe establishes what is called the European Union. The European Union was established in order to kind of be a response to the conflicts that Europe has had for thousands of years, kind of create this nice community where the different nations of Europe can trade amongst each other in peace and in harmony. So as Cold War ended and the Berlin Wall fell, the European Union increased in authority and strength, and now is one of the most powerful bodies in world government. So that is European history from the ancient Greeks all the way down to the modern age. I hope that was helpful for you. Keep working hard in your classes.